Hi, thanks for jumping in and checking out our video here. My name is Joe.
And I'm Alyse, and we're brand new AGWM missionaries to Japan.
And we just wanted to take a moment and just share with you about our calling, about how God called us into missions, and also a little bit about what our first term is going to look like and what does it look like to do missions work in Japan. And I got to tell you, we had no plan to do missions. That wasn't something on the forefront of our mind. In fact, when I tell you that it was so far out of left field, I don't know, like it wasn't even something that we ever really dreamed about. It wasn't like something that we felt that would have been in on, as my one buddy said, like on our bingo card. It wasn't what we thought. And but we were staff pastoring, and we've been staff pastoring for almost 10 years at a few different churches, and we were super comfortable. And I mean, I'm telling you, we were in our hometown, my parents and your parents. We were about 10 minutes apart from both of them. They were both going to the same church that we were on staff at. And things were going great. I mean, so well that like the church was growing, and we were talking about church planting or campusing, something along those lines. Is kind of what our dream was, what we thought we would be doing. And then 2 years ago, we were at our pastors conference and up in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I can tell you, I could take you right back to that same spot in that same pew. And, of course, in the back row, right? Because that's where I like to sit. This has been I'm like, hey, let's sit in the back. She's like, why do we want to sit in the back? Because I don't want to sit in the front. Anyway, so we're sitting in the back, and I'm telling you, it was during that message, and this was for pastors. It wasn't just for people being called into missions. It was a pastor's conference, and it was Omar Byler who was speaking. And I'm telling you, it was like the first time that I had ever heard, I felt this calling. Like I knew this is what we were supposed to do. So much so, like at the end of that message, he even said, I believe that there are pastors in church offices that are supposed to be overseas doing missions. And he's like, if that's you, come forward. And I'm like, I can't come forward, but I think I'm supposed to, because I haven't talked to you about it. And I hadn't talked to our lead pastor. So I'm like, I can't, like, so it's okay to respond in your seat sometimes. It's okay. So after that, we went out to eat, and I remember I looked at you and I was like, hey, hon, we have to talk about something. And you looked right back at me and you're like, yes, we do. So God was calling us both. Why don't you share a little bit more about kind of what we felt going forward after that?
Yeah, so at that point, we didn't feel a specific call to a specific place, just that God was calling us to missions. So that night, we talked a little bit more. We felt like we were supposed to go to some place unreached. So that night, after we went out to dinner and discussed, this calling that we were feeling, we went back to our Airbnb, and I pulled up a list of unreached countries and unreached people groups. And I went through the list, and I remember distinctly seeing Japan on the list and saying, well, there's Japan. And Joe said, I don't really want to go to Japan. And I said, I don't really want to go to Japan either. And that was our very first conversation about the possibility of going to Japan.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, when I said no, like, I don't want to go to Japan, and you said, I don't want to either, I was like, thank you. Thank you. Because I don't want to go.
Right. Yeah. We never had any interest of going to Japan. That wasn't on our bucket list of places to go. And I feel like it's become a really popular vacation destination nowadays. But so from that point, I couldn't get Japan out of my mind. So, we didn't really feel like we had any clear direction at that point. Just that we would just continue to seek the Lord and pray about where God had us going. And we knew he would reveal it in his perfect timing. So, but from that point, I could not get Japan out of my mind. And it was really interesting because, I would see videos about Japan on my Facebook feed. And, with the algorithm, once you see one video like that and you watch it, then you get a ton more. So I was getting a lot more reels about Japan, and I was noticing myself being interested in Japan and the Japanese people and the culture in a way that I've never experienced before. I'm like, this is interesting. Like, I'm really becoming interested in Japan. And at that point, it was almost as if God was giving me his sight and his vision for the Japanese people, because I was seeing them through a brand new set of eyes. And I remember seeing a statistic shortly around that same time frame that talked about how unreached the Japanese people were as a people group, and that less than 1%, and there's different numbers depending on where you look, but less than 1% of the Japanese people follow Jesus. And I remember seeing that statistic and weeping. And I think that was the turning point for me to realize that God was the person was the one that was placing that burden on my heart. Because again, never had any interest in Japan, never really had any interest in the culture and the people, but now my heart was breaking for them and the lack of access they have to the gospel. So I felt like at that point, God said to me, don't talk about this feeling about being called to Japan with anybody because I'll confirm it. And so we weren't talking about it with anyone else except for ourselves at that point.
Yeah.
And we were very, very conscientious about not talking around our kids about it. They had no clue we were feeling called to missions, let alone Japan. Soon after that, I was doing a homeschool lesson with our oldest daughter, Ella, and I opened up her geography textbook, and she was going through a bunch of different countries and learning about different languages around the world. And one day I opened up the book, and it happened to be about the Japanese language in Japan. And I just started reading from the textbook to her. And she stopped me while I was reading and said, "Mom, are missionaries allowed in Japan?" And I was a little taken aback because of all the things she could have said in that moment. That was not what I was anticipating. And I said to her, "Yeah, it's an open country for missionaries, but there's not a whole lot of Christians there." And she said, "Well, when I grow up someday, I'm going to be a missionary to Japan." And that was so awesome because that was such a clear confirmation. I mean, you can't get much clearer than that. And the fact that God was speaking through our 9-year-old daughter at the time about this calling was just amazing. And that was just one of so many clear confirmations that we have that we're called to Japan.
Oh, for sure. And not only just called to missions, but called to Japan specifically.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then as we were going through that and like, again, researching more and learning and getting, advice, like that was kind of like the solidifying point for us when we're like, okay, God, you are calling us to Japan. There was moments like our son who, you asked him, he had been learning Spanish in ASL for school because of where we lived. That made the most sense. And you asked him about, what language do you want to learn? And then he comes back with, well, I want to learn Japanese because I want to go to Japan someday.
Yeah.
And we're like, what? You've never said that before. And like, I get it that it's for Nintendo and
he appreciates the culture.
Right. But like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
The fact that God's even wiring him to want to be there and to be a part of that culture. And
yeah, so he was even learning Japanese for an entire year before he knew that we were going to be going to Japan, which was incredible.
Yeah. And like, even though it's known as the missionary graveyard, and we know that, it's been interesting if you go back and you watch the kind of how Christianity has happened over the last almost 500 years that missionaries, the first time the first missionary stepped foot in Japan was almost 500 years ago now. And when it's known as the missionary graveyard, like these are things that like, I don't know, it spurred us a little bit more. I feel like it, like, because what's cool is we're seeing him move the Holy Spirit in a way that has not been seen before.
Yep.
It's so cool that we're hearing stories of people that are coming to Christ over there in much more of a faster pace. Before they said it would take about 3 years from the time that someone would walk into the doors of a church to the time that they would actually surrender their life to Christ was about 3 years. And now it's about 12 to 18 months. So we're seeing that come down. Yeah. So there is something moving right now that yes, this was hard ground. And let's be honest, it still is hard ground.
Yes.
But because of the faithfulness of the plowing of people before us.
Yes.
I truly believe that we're no longer going to, it's not going to be known as the missionary graveyard anymore. It's truly going to be, it's the harvest season, I believe right now. We are moving into the harvest season. There is, again, people being called, there's workers that are being called right now in this unprecedented way that because the harvest is ready.
Yes.
And this is because people have been praying. So as we look forward to what God has for us, why don't you share a little bit about what is that first term going to look like? Because again, in some places around the world, your first term is going to look like, man, you're right in the middle of, you're planting that church day 2, right?
Yes.
But that's not the way this was going to work. The way that we kind of have to approach this is going to be a little bit different because we know it's going to be a long-term thing. This is not a one term and done. This is going to be something that's going to be long term. So why don't you talk about what our first term is going to look like.
Yeah, so our first term, since we're brand new missionaries, is really focused on setting a solid foundation so that we can have longevity and ministry there. So one of the first big focuses that we have for our first term is learning the language. So both Joe and I will be going to language school. We'll have about 2 years of language learning each. And our kids will also be learning Japanese in the private Christian school that they will be going to. So we know that to build relationships, to be able to share the gospel, to be able to have doors open through building those relationships and investing time and just getting to know people, that we need to know their language, because that is going to make what we're doing a whole lot more effective if we can communicate with them and just be able to build friendships. And, in Japan, relationships are so authentic to relationships are so
rare, almost
rare. And that's what people are desiring.
Yeah.
So but it takes a long time to be able to get to a point of authenticity, especially in that culture, because a lot of times they won't actually tell you what they're actually feeling. So it takes time. So we're going to learn the language. We're going to build relationships, knowing that that's going to take a long time to have authenticity and be able to open up about different things in our lives with each other. And then we're also going to be learning about the culture, because we know Japanese is a very complex culture, and there's a lot of ways to offend people there. So, and obviously we don't want to do that. So we
don't want to be those Americans, right?
We're really, and I know we will have moments,
right,
because we're not perfect and we're not Japanese, but we, from the bottom of our hearts, we just don't want to be those people.
Right.
So we really want to, and being immersed in the culture will allow us to really be able to learn it and make mistakes, and then learn from them and learn from mistakes that other missionaries have made that they've shared with us. Right. So all three of those things are what we're going to be focusing on our first 3 years. So that way we can have longevity in our ministry there. We can have longevity and healthy longevity, not just surviving, but we want all of our family to flourish in Japan. And by focusing on these three things, it's going to give us a great foundation for our ministry there.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people have asked hey, how can we partner with you? What does that look like? What does partnership look like? And there's, honestly a few different ways that can happen. And number one is through prayer. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, it's missionaries have been there for almost 500 years, and for it to still be where it's at right now, I know that we are not going to walk in and be like, guys, if you just did it this way, we would have been done by now, right? That is so naive.
Yes.
And maybe that's why God had me wait 18 years and didn't call me right to be a missionary, because I would have walked in thinking that. But we understand that this is a process and a thing, but we understand that God is the one that has to open those doors.
Yes.
God is the one that is going before us. He is the one that's going to be working through us, and he's going to be there well after we're ever gone.
Yes.
So first and foremost is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage you to sign up for our newsletters, sign up for our Facebook notifications and Instagrams and YouTubes, and whatever works best for you to stay in contact with us, because we want to be updating you as we're walking alongside and as we're doing this.
Yeah.
We need and covet your prayers. Second way that you can partner with us is financially. Obviously, you need finances to do anything in this whole world, right? Yeah. So there's two different budgets that we're raising. The first budget is our one-time funding. So that one-time funding is for anything that's it's not an ongoing thing. It's the cost of our travel to get over there. So the extra baggage and all of those things to get there. We need to have this was crazy. We just found out 7 times your rent to secure your housing.
Yes.
So most times here in America, it's 3 times. You have your first month, your last month, and then your security deposit. Over there, we just found out from our leads over there that they needed 7 times that amount to secure it. So that's all part of that one-time funding. Our schooling, our language schooling is in there.
Yes. Then
the second budget is our monthly budget. So what we're asking is for people to come alongside, people in churches to come alongside to financially, you're saying in faith, I am going to support you in this. And then you start supporting that monthly.
And that would be for the term.
For that, yeah.
For us, it'll be for the first 3 years.
Yes. So for that first 3 years, for us to be able to be there. And that's all the monthly cost of, that's our health insurance. Mm-hmm. That's our rent. That's the kids' schooling. That is, ministry funds. Because the other thing is when you are supporting a missionary, you're not just supporting their salary.
Yes.
You are supporting them and the ministry. You're almost funding a person and the church at the same time.
Yes.
So that's what we're raising our funds for monthly. So we need monthly supporters to get there as well. But the cool part is everybody can pray.
Yep.
And some are able to support financially.
Yep.
And so we want to say thank you for those that are able to pray. We need that. We also say thank you for those that are able to financially support us. Mm-hmm. We thank you, and because we need that too. So I just want to say thank you to both of those.
Yes.
Hope you can hear our heart. Hope you can hear, again, just a little bit about our calling.
Yeah.
About how you can partner with us, about what our hope and plans and dreams are for that first term as we go. So thank you so much. We appreciate all of you. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. God bless you.